Hello there, YouTube. This is supposed to be a chill video where we just discuss the last week, and you'll notice that these videos have a different thumbnail rather than the standard thumbnail I usually use for books or gaming. This now has a clock, a watch, as its thumbnail, and that's so that you know what the wrap-up videos are at a glance. Now, the idea is these are going to replace my TBR videos, my wrap-up videos, my any videos where it would just be a basic vlog. Because one of the things I found is that YouTube channels need a certain consistency in order for the algorithm to give a crap, basically. And I have been looking into it, and it turns out that uploading regularly on a specific day at a specific time that is consistent every week, that's something the algorithm likes. It's actually quite weird. I've been looking into the YouTube algorithm a fair bit, and I don't want to change my content too much to fit the algorithm. Like, I'd rather make videos that I enjoy rather than making videos designed to do well. Like, I'd rather have 50 people watching me that really care what I have to say than have 1,000 people watching me because I'm saying stuff they want to hear. It's a hobby for me, after all. So what I'm trying to do is work the algorithm to my benefit, so I can still talk about the things I want, but in a format that the algorithm will respond to. Incidentally, the algorithm has some really bizarre things that it does. Apparently, the YouTube algorithm can now scan videos for audio and for text on screen, which means that you can put keywords in your video in positions that you wouldn't normally expect, and they will get picked up, even to the point where the subtitles for your video will get picked up and used in a way to fill out search results. So, for example, if I was to put the text here, PewDiePie in shock horror controversy. Now, because I've said that, that will appear in the closed captioning, and it will also appear as text on the screen, which means that if anyone was to type in PewDiePie in shock horror controversy, they would almost certainly get this video in the search results, even though it won't be in the title, won't be in the description, won't be in any of the search tags. YouTube's algorithm is getting really, really good at determining a few things, which is getting weird because it means that now you can't just shove a load of extra tags into the tags or into the description. You would have to actually insert them into your video itself. So you can do bizarre things, but you'd actually have to put it into your content. For example, you could put like really obvious searchable strings in, like for example this one: how to get 1,000 subscribers in a week. There are plenty of people who are going to be searching for that because for some reason people think that you can search up tips on how to be successful on YouTube by searching on YouTube. It's unlikely to work that way because, generally speaking, the people making those tips videos don't have any subscribers. Or the only reason their tips videos are doing well is because they're tips videos. None of their other videos do well. It's quite bizarre, really. But either way, those things will help a video get through search results. I actually expect this video to get a bump in views because I've done exactly that in this video. And it'll be bizarre to see if it works. It's almost a little bit of an experiment on my part to see whether or not that will make any effect, because I can see what search terms people have searched to get to my video in the video view breakdown. So if you use a search term to reach my video, I know that search term was used to reach my video. Anyway, enough of that rambling. I'm not here to discuss YouTube optimization. As much as it would be a topic that would get a lot of people invested, I'm sure, it's nothing that I want to really talk about. So, what this is going to be is I'm going to do a rundown as to what I've been reading, what I've been watching, what I've been playing, and how I've been handling stuff for the last week. Now, I have games and books, and as well as that TV. So I'm going to go through books first, because this revival of this channel started as a BookTube channel, so that feels appropriate. So here I have the books that I've been reading, and the first of those is Caliban's War. I've not read too far into this yet, but I'm enjoying the tone. It feels like a nice continuation. We're with familiar characters, so that's nice. I don't know how The Expanse is going to continue for 9 books with the design that they're going for. It could get very samey, but so far I'm having fun with this and I'm enjoying it. I've not got particularly far in, as I've said. I've done very little reading this week. If anything, most of the reading I've done of this was weeks previous. In this week, I have only read 2 days out of the week, and my total reading is probably only about 2 to 3 hours. That gives you an idea of just how little reading I managed to get in this week. I just didn't feel up to reading. Sometimes you go into a bit of a slump, and I felt that largely this week. The other book that I have been reading, I was reading this earlier today, in fact, and that is Arm of the Sphinx. This is the second of the Books of the Babel series, often called the Senlin series, after the main character from Senlin Ascends. It is an interesting book. Senlin Ascends was one of my favourite books of the year, so I've been very much looking forward to this. And it starts with a very different tone than I was expecting, though it probably shouldn't have been as different, given the way the first book went. This book feels more like a swashbuckling adventure. It feels more like a traditional fantasy adventure at the beginning, whereas the previous book felt almost, for lack of a better word, almost literary, as if it was going for that literary fiction label. The way that it portrayed things, it was very subtle in its fantasy elements, and it was focusing more on the psychology of the characters and the romance plot within it, whereas this book feels more adventure-based, for the first few chapters anyway. I'm excited to see where it goes, because the prose is still very interesting and the setting is still fantastic. So I am excited to continue on with this book and see how it all fits together, because there's a lot to enjoy, and it is still gripping. I started reading this morning, I was only planning on reading for half an hour this morning, and I opened the book, I read the first few pages. Before I knew what was going on, it was after 11 o'clock, and I'd been up there reading for almost 2 hours, so I read a fair bit this morning. Not obviously, I wasn't counting that in the other bits of reading I'd done this week. So I'd say, including today, I've managed to get I'd say today's reading encompasses more than half the reading I've done all week. But I'm getting back into reading, and I'm really enjoying the reading this week. So next week, I suppose it would be next week. I was going to say, including tonight as well, because obviously I'm recording this on the Sunday, it goes up on the Sunday. But that means that the Sunday evening, where I usually take part in the reading streams that Sylvan Princess does, I will get a fair bit of reading done in there, but I'll count that towards next week's reading. I'm actually planning on starting, and I put it out of reach because I was a fool. The Blade Itself by Joe Abercrombie. So this is going to be the book I'm going to start, possibly tonight. I'm not sure if I want to start it tonight or if I want to continue with Arm of the Sphinx. But I will be reading this week, because I've been putting off this series for a while now. and I want to get into it. I want to actually give it a good chance, because I've heard great stuff about it, and it is apparently exactly the kind of book I enjoy. So that's what I'm hoping to focus on. It's a good spread, I think. I've got a little bit of a traditional grimdark fantasy with the Blade itself, and continuing on with the other two books that I'm still actively reading. That gives me a almost steampunky fantasy book, and with the Expanse, I've got a space opera sci-fi. So I've got a nice spread there. It's nothing too similar, so I should feel engaged with all three simultaneously, which is a nice thing. I think that now that I've got back into the habit of reading in the mornings, I'm probably going to speed through those quite fast, because once you start the books, I find starting the books is a difficult bit for me. Once you start the books, they go through really, really fast, and you can make short work of them and still massively enjoy them. I will probably find, though, that doing that will mean that I'll have less time for the other hobbies, which, incidentally, this week I have really engaged with. Not feeling up to reading, I instead watched a fair bit more TV, because I don't tend to watch TV all that often. I find that television hasn't really engaged me much. I don't have like television channels in my house. I don't have any cable TV or anything like that. I don't even have a working aerial, so I can't even receive BBC channels. What I do have, however, is Netflix and Amazon Prime, and I also have the ability to log into someone else's Disney Plus. So between those, I can watch pretty much anything that's streaming. Oh, I also have Now TV as well. So I have access to pretty much every streaming service that's available in Britain. What this means is that if I do want to watch TV, I'm kind of spoiled for choice. And this week, I have been almost binge-watching my way through the first season of Farscape. Now, I watched season 1 of Farscape before, but I've only ever seen the first season. And I don't think I ever even finished season 1. I really enjoyed what I saw, but I don't remember Farscape very clearly. I know of a few characters, and I remember a few scenes from a few episodes, but that's all I really knew. And there are characters that I'm fairly sure are introduced as early as season 2 that I don't remember at all. I've seen pictures of them. There's a woman with white hair that I do not recognise, and that shows how little I have watched. Now, in the last week, I have managed to binge my way through 13 episodes of Farscape Season 1. And Farscape's fantastic. Like, it is a really, really well-made space opera TV show. Like, if you want a decent episodic space opera that has a feel that is similar to Star Trek in ways, but also has an edginess that Star Trek would never go down, Farscape is the right one for you. I would say Farscape actually shares more in common with Firefly than any other show I've seen. And that is a massive compliment, because Firefly is probably one of my all-time favourite shows. It has its issues. It's not perfect in the way it's written. It's not necessarily the most consistent show. And I will say, in the first season, I have found that I actively dislike every single person of the crew. The only person on that crew that I think is a likeable character is Crichton, and even Crichton has pissed me off a few times. I would say Aaron is a decent character. She is difficult but still relatable. But the other three are impossible. Like Rigel, Zan, they're just. They seem reliable in certain places, especially Zan. Zan seems very reliable in places, and then she just changes and becomes so bothersome in the way that she's portrayed that I don't know how to take the character. And I mean, that's obviously the point. Like, it's supposed to give layers to the characters, but it does mean that we end up with positions where I cannot fathom liking these characters. Like, there's a point where all three of the prisoner characters are in a position where they actually maim another person for selfish goals. And they're not under the influence of a drug, they're not being mind controlled, they just decide that through democratic rule, they've decided that we outvote you, and we've decided that we're going to chop your arm off. So we're going to chop your arm off, and there's nothing you can say. And as literally a character is shouting, "No, don't do it," they remove a limb. And they do it for their own financial gain. That was really, really turning as a plot point. Like, watching them do that was disturbing and made me hate all three characters. They got to the point now where they are profoundly selfish characters, which I wasn't expecting. That aside, I think that the way that they portrayed the connections between characters are interesting, and it still makes me want to watch forwards. It just means that there's no characters that I consider to be the good guys. It's probably actually the way that a lot of people see things like Grimdark, and I like it for that. I like that it's difficult to find a character that is pointedly a good character. So yeah, that was nice. I have watched a few more episodes of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. as well. I've been watching that with my mum, who I introduced to the MCU last year, and we've been slowly watching our way through the MCU. We're now up to season 3 of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., and we're up to episode 8 now. We watched 3 episodes this week. She was down for a day. We managed to watch our way through 3 episodes, and it was great. She's very attached to a lot of the characters, and I don't think she's aware of just how in-depth modern storytelling goes, because my mum is very much a sitcom and like a British sitcom, British soaps and quiz show kind of TV watcher. So the large series spanning storylines that you get in modern television shows is not something my mum is used to yet. So shows like Breaking Bad or Dexter, where they had long-running and complicated plots, I don't think she's prepared for it. The way that she reacted to Game of Thrones was incredible. Like, she just devoured that show, and she was so overly hyped for everything that she just was on the edge of her seat for every episode. I mean, she even enjoyed the last season because it was so ingrained in her that she needed to know what happened next. She just got taken away by the flow of the episodes coming through. And even to this day, I don't think she actually dislikes that last season. It's not her favourite, but she still cared enough to see what happened to the characters that she didn't really necessarily care if the writing kept its quality, if that makes sense. She was just too invested to stop caring at that point, which was fine. I mean, at the time, I enjoyed the episodes for what they were because I was also invested. It took a couple of weeks of me looking back and realising how redundant so many of those episodes were and how reductive the storylines have become, that I've come to hate seasons 7 and 8. But as I was watching them, I kind of thought that they would still salvage it by doing something with the last couple of episodes that would redeem it all, that would explain all of the stuff that we put up with for 2 seasons. But it never did happen. But that aside, I have been watching a fair bit of TV, which has largely replaced the reading for me. And the main reason I think I've done that is that not this week, but last week I think it was. Was it this week or last? I can't. No, it was this week. I am losing track of days, I must admit. The beginning of this week, I was almost rushed into hospital with heat stroke. One of the things that has hit Britain and is now hitting Eastern Europe is a huge heat wave. Now, heat waves are very, very troublesome. They are basically deadly. People don't realise just how much a heat wave can affect people, which I find amusing because watching Farscape, I do feel like a sedation, because the temperatures reached a high of 29 degrees in Britain, and 29 degrees C is not particularly hot for most people. The thing is, I'm in an area of Britain where the average temperature is 17 degrees. And that means that the temperature here was 12 degrees higher than what would normally have as my average temperature. And that's where the problems lie. Humanity, as a species, acclimatises to the temperature it's in and sets that as its baseline. So if you live in Italy or in Egypt or in part of sub-Saharan Africa, where the temperatures are regularly in the 30s, then that's your norm. If you are in Texas or Florida or India, where the temperature regularly tops out at 40, then that's your norm. The thing is, the norm for Britain is 17, and that's my norm. In the same way that if someone from the Mediterranean or the Middle East was to come to Britain, they would really suffer in the winter. They would be constantly cold. They'd always want a big coat. They'd always be shivering, even when I'd be walking around in a t-shirt. The same is true with heat. So for me, 12 degrees above the norm, for me, that is dangerous heat stroke level. And also, one of the things to remember is that there's a TikTok video going around. It's like 30 degrees in Spain feels like 30 degrees. 30 degrees in Italy feels like 30 degrees. 30 degrees in Greece feels like 30 degrees. The 30 degrees in Britain feels like, and then he goes on a whole spiel. And I won't spoil the punchline, but it's an amusing little clip. But actually, 30 degrees in Britain feels like 30 degrees. 30 degrees in Spain feels like whatever you set your AC to. 30 degrees in Italy feels like whatever you set your AC to. 30 degrees in America feels like whatever you set your AC to. We don't have air conditioning in Britain. So when it's 30 degrees here, it's actually 30 degrees. When it's 42 degrees in Italy, it's 21 degrees in the building because you crank the AC up to ridiculous. That's the difference. So we don't have something to take away the heat. We don't have a way to regulate it. If it gets too hot, it's just sit and bear it. It's just get on with it. So that was one of the problems for me. I started getting quite bad. I ended up having to lie on the sofa, flop sweat, shaking, feeling nauseous and dizzy. I had towels wrapped around blocks of ice, which I had on my chest and stomach, and I had one on my thighs, like moving it backwards and forwards between my legs, just to keep my body cool. I called my doctor. They were panicked by the symptoms I was showing, and they called an ambulance. The ambulance came down. They did a full set of bloods, blood pressure tests. They did tests to see how it was my perception and my reaction times. They did a full EKG heart scan. They were here for over 2 hours monitoring me, and they said that I was almost at the point where they would have hospitalised me. I was that close. If I hadn't got the ice packs, I would have been in hospital that day. So, yeah, heat stroke is serious, serious business. And it doesn't need to be that hot, it just needs to be hot for you. It's a matter of what is hot for you. If it's more than 10 degrees hotter than your standard, then it's hot enough for heat stroke. And if it's more than 15 degrees hotter than your standard, your average temperature, then it's deadly. So yeah, that's a problem. But what it did mean is that I didn't sit and read. I didn't feel up to it. I had a constant headache. I was constantly dripping sweat. I didn't want to touch a book because my hands were pouring with sweat. Like I was a mess. So I didn't want to pick up a book. I didn't want to sit and read. But I could lie on the sofa and just have the TV on and kind of passively absorb it. You have to try to read. You have to put in effort to read the words on the page. You don't have to put in much effort to watch a TV show. It kind of gets beamed at you. So I watch TV instead of reading. I would also say as well, this week has been the end of quite a nasty depressive bout for me. Now, I don't talk about this too much, but I have clinical depression. It's one of the many problems that I have brought on by the multitude of disabilities that I've got. I'm on disability benefits and I'm declared unfit for work. And one of the problems that I have, because of all of my disabilities, is that it has changed my brain chemistry in such a way that I've developed depression. And it's reasonable to expect that. If you were housebound and in constant chronic pain from the age of from your mid-20s, you would probably find that you would develop some resentment and anxiety to the point where you would become depressed. And that's what happened. Now, I've got a handle on it at the moment. I manage it quite well. I take medication. It's not a big problem for me. But I do have issues where I dip. I have peaks and troughs, as many people with depression do. And it's probably no surprise to anyone who's been paying attention to me that I have been in a solid, 6-week-long trough at least. Maybe longer. You will notice that, for example, my hair has been a mess in the last few videos, and probably will be in the next couple, in fact, because I batch recorded a load of videos that haven't gone up yet. So they will go up over the next week, and you'll see that my hair is a mess. It's not been brushed, it's not been washed in days. That was because I felt depressed. I didn't feel well enough to get up, I didn't feel well enough to get in the shower and wash my hair, especially after I had that fall in the shower that left me with that shining black eye, which I still have the hint of left, and I believe a scar now across my nose when my nose split. That really put me off getting in the shower. In fact, the day that I fell in the shower kind of extended that depressive period by at least a week, because getting in the shower on that day was kind of the day where I was coming out of that depressive trough. And I decided, okay, get up, get yourself ready and raring to go. And I decided to get a shower early morning. If I'm getting a shower in the early morning, that's a really good sign, because it means that I'm not putting things off until the afternoon. So I tried to get myself up. I got in the shower. I was going to get a shower, wash my hair, get myself ready and raring to go, put on some nice clean clothes, and have a solid day where I would be productive. And usually that's the kick that gets me out of that depressive trough. Didn't work. I had a nasty fall. Almost ended up knocking off my teeth out, so I was really, really lucky, but I ended up really quite concerned, blood pouring, nose swollen to twice its size, big black eye. I was not in a good way. I also didn't realise at the time that I had pulled muscles in my back and fairly badly damaged my right knee, which is still a bit off, but the swelling is finally going down. But I had really injured myself quite a lot. The next few days, I was struggling to do pretty much anything that required me to stand up. I couldn't even cook. I couldn't cook a bowl of soup, because heating the soup up on the stove required me to be standing by the stove for a few minutes, and standing up for longer than about 2 minutes was so incredibly painful, I had to go and sit back down again. So I was really struggling that week. It's been awkward. Last week I had that fall. This week I very nearly had heat stroke. I have not had a pleasant couple of weeks, so it's no wonder I've not really done much. That I've kind of lay back and watched TV the entire time. However, I did fall back on one of my favourite hobbies, and I played a lot of video games. Because for some reason, video games never feels like a chore for me. It doesn't matter what I'm doing. A video game, assuming that I don't have a migraine, a video game is something that I always feel I can go back to and enjoy. And I fell into my video games and spent a lot of time just playing and playing and playing, especially in Hollow Knight. Hollow Knight is one of my favourite games of all time. and I spent hours in Hollow Knight recently. I would go on and I would practice the God Home part of the game, which is the second DLC, and it's where the boss rush mode is. And I would go on and I'd practice individual bosses just for the sake of playing something. I'd just play a boss over and over because I enjoyed that boss. I liked the rhythm of the boss, and it was a nice distraction. Until the point where I realised I'd spent a few days just practicing these bosses now. So, given that I'd been practicing the bosses, I just thought, why don't I just go for it and try the Pantheons? And in one day, I played through and finished both the 4th and 5th Pantheon. Just barreled through them in a single day. It was really, really good. Like, I wasn't expecting to finish the Pantheons. I genuinely wondered whether or not I would ever finish the Pantheons. But it turns out that if you spend a week just playing through and memorising all the boss fights because you have you're in a depressive state and you're feeling sore and you can't move much and you don't really want to concentrate on anything else, if you just zone out and let yourself commit these to muscle memory, you can beat the Pantheon. It is a nice feeling because this was the one trophy that made me think I'd never get the Platinum. Now, I still have a few other things I need to do. I actually never finished the Grim Troop on this game, so I still have to finish the last leg of the Grim Troop. I still need to find Mr. Mushroom, who I've never met because I never used the Mushroom charm, so I didn't even know Mr. Mushroom was a thing until I looked up the trophy list. So I still need to find Mr. Mushroom and do his little side quest. And then all I need to do is go and beat the final boss, and it's done. I've already filled out the Hunter's Journal, so I'm very, very close to finishing Hollow Knight. It won't take me too long to do that, but I'm putting it off for the time being. And having a little break. I'm going to go in and finish off those last few things, and then that's Hollow Knight done, and the Platinum Trophy achieved. That will be fantastic. So that is a game that I'm going to be playing in the coming weeks. Another game that I have been playing is this one. This is New Super Lucky's Tale, which is a 3D platformer. It is actually a 3D platform as well. There are defined levels with a start and an end. It does have a collectathon element where there are things you collect as you finish levels, and then the more you collect, the more levels you unlock. But every level is a single level with a start and an end. There are a couple of levels where they're non-linear, but I'd say 2/3 of the levels are linear, and some of them are extremely linear. Which is great, because there is a good sense of challenge. I'd also say once you beat the final boss, you open up the world of Foxington, and those levels are genuinely challenging. Like, there are some really, really good, direct, linear platforming challenges there, and there's loads of them. It is surprising, because the game is quite easy, but that one last world provides way more challenge than I was expecting from this game. I thought this would be a really easy, bash it out in 10 hours platinum. But honestly, I could see a couple of these trophies actually being a challenge. I've not finished this yet. There's still a few trophies I've yet to get. It's not a matter of skill or difficulty, it's just a matter of time. I just haven't actually focused enough time into finishing this one yet. So this is probably going to be something I aim to complete in the next week. The one game that I have been playing, though, and I'm going to throw in a little bit of gameplay, and that is Kaze and the Wild Masks. This game is fantastic, and I have been playing this a lot in the last month or so. This week, I played the last couple of levels I needed for a no-death run in order to get the Platinum Trophy. And I got the Platinum Trophy for this a few days ago. I have gameplay footage of me playing the last few levels, and my god, these levels were hard. First of all, I have my attempt at Olaf, which was the third boss, and I would argue the hardest boss in the game. Much harder than the final boss. The final boss is more complicated and much longer, there's a lot more stuff to do, but Olaf's boss requires you to be precise. And the battle requires you to really, really know the movement and to move properly to react to certain threats and to get through a shocking amount of the levels without taking any taking any breaks, because there's no point where you can just stop and just stand still. There's always something coming at you from a different direction, so none of the platforms feel safe. And for a boss fight like this, to do a no death run is genuinely a challenge. I was quite surprised when I did achieve it, because I expected the run that I used for it to just be a practice run. I thought, I'm just going to keep playing, and every time I play, I'm just going to see how far I can get, and try and memorise the pattern every now and then. And I never even needed to memorise the latter half of the boss fight, because on one of the times when I thought I was memorising patterns, I just happened to make it all the way through, to the point where I was able to take that last hit, and smack, there he was, done. It was a really nice feeling. Like, beating that boss fight was fantastic. It was so much fun. The last level, though, that I really struggled with, and that is Zip Lizard. Zip Lizard is one hell of a level. It is one of those levels that you would play over and over again, because the beginning of the level isn't particularly difficult, but it's fine. To get the gold speedrun trophy, you really need to perfect that beginning bit of the level, though, because it's the only bit where you can make up time. Because once you get the mask, you're now in an auto-scroller, basically. It becomes an auto-runner game. Effectively, that mask replaces the minecart from the Donkey Kong Country levels, where that felt like a vehicle section where the vehicle was constantly moving. It's the same basic principle, but now you're not in a vehicle, you're wearing a mask and you're constantly running. But it is the same gameplay style, it just doesn't necessarily feel the same way because you're not in a vehicle, which I do think changes the tone a little. Still, one of the things that makes this a bit different from the minecart levels, though, is that they have added way more complexity. You can jump, but you can also do a double jump. When you bounce on enemies, the double jump resets. You can also do a spike move towards the ground, where you speed down at a diagonal, and that also resets when you hit an enemy. Which means that you can jump, double jump, spike move, bounce off an enemy, double jump, and then spike move again. And you can keep doing that. So there's enough enemies, you can keep bouncing off them forever. And it is impressive the way that the level is set up. There are points where you basically need to purposely avoid killing enemies so that they will be ahead of you on the course, so that you can then bounce on them later on in the course, after you've killed a different enemy, in order to get a bit more height. It is one hell of a level. It is very fun once you get the rhythm down, but it is one of those levels that feels more and more like a rhythm game than any platformer ever needs to feel. It was still very, very fun to play through, and very fulfilling to finish. And it's not truly a rhythm game, because there's still enough of a variety and ways you can approach things. There are certain bits you need to use certain abilities at this point, and that's the only way to get through. There are other bits where there's a little bit of leeway. You can move in different ways. You can try to avoid certain hits. You can try to just power through. You can take damage and power through in certain ways. And there's different ways you can go around. Like some of the zip lines, you can take the high route or the low route. There's points where you can jump over enemies, or you can barrel through the enemies in certain ways. So it's not entirely rhythm game-like, but it does feel like it's approaching it, which does require more and more mastery, but it also removes a little bit of the interpretation when it comes to a platformer. I like to be able to play it my way. Even still, it was one hell of a fun experience, and it's a platinum that I am very, very pleased to have. It's my 22nd platinum trophy, so very, very pleased with it. I'm probably going to finish off New Super Lucky's Tale next week, and also I have Spider-Man Miles Morales, which is the game that I started playing earlier this morning. I played it for about half an hour this morning, and just tried out the new controls, got myself familiar with it, and I intend to play through this game over the next week and see what I make of it. It's apparently much shorter than the original Spider-Man. It's only about 8 to 10 hours long, which means that the platinum probably take about 2 to 3 times that, so it's maybe 20 hours to get the platinum. I could easily manage to knock that out in a week or two without too much trouble. So it depends on how much time I feel like gaming and whether or not that game really draws me in. But Spider-Man Miles Morales is probably the next game that I'm going to finish after finishing New Super Lucky's Tale, which I've got maybe an hour's worth of content left there. So yeah, that's what I've been playing. That's what I'm planning on doing over the next week, and that's what my week has been like. It's been a nice week, really, for gaming. It's been a week where I've had a lot of gaming experiences that I've enjoyed. I managed to achieve another platinum trophy. I managed to finish the Pantheon and Hollow Knight. I feel very accomplished in my gaming life. Everywhere else, it was one hell of a horrible week. I was in pain. I was overheating. I had a black eye that looked like I'd just been in a boxing fight with an orangutan. I have not had the best of weeks, and I'm glad that I am dragging myself out of that depressive phase. I apologise for my appearance in some of my other videos where I clearly look a bit haggard, and I do apologise that there's still a couple more of those to come because I've already recorded them and I like the way the videos went, even if I do look a bit of a mess. And so hopefully you can ignore the fact that I look like the cat dragged me in on a bad day, and enjoy the videos for their content. And thank you for sticking it out and watching this vlog. It's been a nice experience. I think this is a good direction for the channel. So I'm going to be putting these up every Sunday. They're probably not going to be 45 minutes plus like this one every Sunday, but this being the first one, I had a lot to discuss, so I think it makes sense. But these vlogs are just going to be a way for me to talk to you candidly and have a nice little experience where we feel a community connection. We can just chat without me inserting like channel updates and life updates into every video. So this is where all of those will go. So if anything's happening in my life, it'll be in these videos. It means I can keep the book videos strictly about the books, and I can keep the gaming videos strictly about the games, and I can still discuss everything I like here. It's a nice move, I think. But thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.